Hey guys, welcome to this next episode of The King Lincoln Show. I'd like to continue telling you the story of how I got all fucked up and bad stuff that happened to me. And you might remember last episode, I was talking about Stella, the girl I got all stressed out about, and all the other things that were starting to stress me out and come to a head. And how I started to, get all anxious and deteriorate mentally. And this was leading up to when I was due to leave to go overseas to do an exchange trip, to travel around Europe and go to school for a semester in England. So I told you about my last night before I left and my very awkward and bad experience of having sex for the first time and losing my virginity. And then the next morning or whatever, we went to the airport, and it was me and my friend Warren, who was in the theater and the plays and stuff with me. We were going overseas together, and Stella saw us off, and it was very emotional. And like I was saying goodbye to Stella, I said goodbye to my family, and then I was saying goodbye to Stella, and I kept kind of like lingering and like not quite going and like saying goodbye, but like not quite leaving yet. And she basically shouted, she was like, just go, this is torture. Like she just wanted me to leave, like just wanted it to be like, just to be over, like me like lingering there and like not quite leaving and still being there was like somehow torture to her or something. So it was classic stupid, like teenage slash 20 stuff, like all these dumb emotional dramas, but it was a very emotional moment. And that would be the last time I would see uh my family and stuff for a long time from going overseas, but this would be the last time I would see Stella for a long, long, long time. And the last time we would like be together in like a dating way or whatever. So, yeah. So I left and went overseas, and this begins a very, like, the most traumatic chapter of my life, this overseas trip. And this is going to be kind of really hard to talk about, and it's probably going to come out in a big, messy jumble. But I'm just going to do my best with it, and I'll probably have to, in later episodes, come back and be like, oh, yeah, I never told you this bit. Oh, yeah, I never told you that bit. Like, but it doesn't matter. Like, if I don't try to do it, I'll never end up doing it. And, I just got to have a go at it. So, Warren and I, we thought that going overseas would be really awesome and that we'd have like an awesome time. And for some stupid reason, we were just really dumb and naive and ignorant. And we thought if you don't plan a overseas trip properly or anything, you just go overseas, you automatically have an awesome time. But we had a really shit time because we didn't plan it properly, and that is just not a real thing. That's imaginary. If you want to have a good time on a trip, you have to plan it properly, and you also have to have like resources and maybe know people over there and different stuff like that. But you definitely have to plan it properly and choose what you do and your itinerary and stuff kind of properly. You have to do it well. So I can't remember exactly how it all happened. I think what we did was we went to England first, and Warren had a place to stay in Twickenham, which is in like outer London. And it was a friend's house where he could stay, and I think we put up most of our stuff there. And we didn't take that much stuff, just one kind of like knapsack full of stuff. And then we just got like a smaller bags of just like a few things that we needed. And then we took that and we went to the other countries that we wanted to go too. So we landed in London and we stayed in Twickenham for a bit, and then we kind of got prepared and went to other countries we wanted to go to. I think that's what we did. But I don't know why, but for some reason we chose really depressing places to go to. And I just really don't know why, but I'm pretty sure the first place we went to was Norway. And Norway was really beautiful and it was pretty cool to see, like the mountains, the fjords, I think they're called. We went up on a glacier, which was pretty cool. Literally and metaphorically, ha ha ha. But yeah. So it was pretty cool to see all the beautiful nature and stuff and like see snow and all that. But it was just kind of depressing. Like it was cold. There wasn't really very much to do. And it was just me and Warren kind of, me and Warren on a train, me and Warren in a hostel. Like wasn't really that much fun. We did a few cool things. We went to Oslo. We went on a boat ride. We went on like a train ride, like up to the little villages and stuff. We saw some beautiful nature. We walked on a glacier. It was kind of cool, but it was also kind of like not as amazing as we were expecting, because in our young minds, we thought, oh, you just go overseas and suddenly everything's amazing, not realizing that overseas is just different countries, like kind of like your country, like, walking through the suburbs of some other city isn't amazing in some way. Like, there's nothing amazing about it. So we went to Norway. We were briefly in Sweden. We went to a bunch of other countries. We went to Poland, to Krakow, I think, Krakow, however you say it. And we went to Auschwitz, and I think we might have gone to another concentration camp called like Birkenau or something. But I don't know why we decided to do these super depressing things. Like, I guess we wanted to see Auschwitz like a piece of history or whatever. But it was so fucking depressing, obviously. There are all these piles of shoes of like dead kids. Like everything was all grey and miserable. And the tour guide was just telling all the depressing stories about all the horrible things that happened in Auschwitz. There was like the gates and the walls with barbed wire and stuff, and it was all so fucking bleak. It's just like, Jesus. And I've come to realize that we weren't actually very fun people. We went to, we traveled around, and sometimes we went to bars and little events and stuff, but we weren't good at like meeting new people. We weren't good at, making new friends and meeting new connections and going on adventures and stuff. We just weren't good at it. Like, we didn't meet that many cool people. We didn't really make like new friends and stuff. It was mainly just me and him just like walking around and not having a proper plan or itinerary, and just randomly thinking, oh, should we do this? Should we do that? And going to like kind of lame like events and shows and stuff, which is just one we happen to see like in the paper or stumble over online or something. It was really stupid. And we went to a lot of different places, but we didn't even really like plan properly or know like what are the main cool things to see there, Like, we went to lots of different places. I think we went to Prague, Norway, Sweden, Poland, like all these different places. But what do we actually do that was like actually cool? We had no idea what the fuck we were doing. And we didn't have that much money. And like, I just remember like traipsing through places, like trying to like buy stuff from grocery stores. We did try some cool foods. Like, we had this kind of like Viking food in Norway and stuff. It's kind of cool, but it wasn't that great or memorable. And yeah, it just really wasn't as awesome and fun as we had hoped. And our hopes were, people who are like 20, they're stupid. They don't know what the fuck. They don't know the difference between like naivety, like, and delusion and reality. They're just dumb. So yeah, it really wasn't good. And I remember, yeah, being in different countries, and also when we were in England, Warren was really into like musical theater and stuff. He was like a kind of theater director kind of guy. And he was always on his like iPod or whatever. I think we had iPods back then. Just listening to all his music and like singing to his like favorite songs and stuff. But what he was doing was he was trying to suppress the fact that he wasn't having that much of a good time, and it wasn't really as fun as we hoped or as we expected. And it was kind of just like normal life, but we were in a different place that looked slightly different. And yeah, we had nothing really going on, and everything cost a lot of money. Um, and yeah, he said this to me. He was like feeling really down and stuff, and he was saying like, I thought going and seeing the world and all this would be like the most awesome thing ever, but here I am, and it's really not. Like, it's really not anything I expected or anything. It's so like, what even is there for me? Like, you know, what will be awesome? What will make me happy if I was so looking forward to this, and now it's like not really that great. And he was feeling really like depressed and let down, and that kind of made me feel that way too. And I kind of also, yeah, felt kind of the same way. And I didn't really have like an iPod with lots of like music on it that I really liked, or I didn't really have anything to sing along to. So he was like, had his like earbuds in, he was singing all these like gay songs that he liked. And I kind of had nothing to do. I was just walking along, like, maybe I'd listen to music, my own music, but I was kind of like, what are we doing? This is kind of lame. And yeah, it was just all kind of fucking lame and stupid. And I really think I did learn that I'm a lame person. Like, a different kind of person probably would have gone over there, and instantly they would be meeting new people. Like, girls would like them. Like, they'd meet girls, and the girls would like think they were really cool and stuff. And they go and have adventures, and they'd make all these new friends, and they'd have all these stories and stuff. But I just didn't, and nor did Warren. Like, we were just lame. Like, we didn't really talk to anyone. We didn't know where to go to have fun. We just sucked. Like, I don't want to, say too much about Warren, but I'll just say about myself, I was just a shit person. That's when I learned that I was just a shit person. Like, I didn't know how to have fun or have adventures or meet new people. I was just fucking lame. And that's part of why the trip was so lame. So, yeah. And I was already feeling all stressed about Stella, this girl, and we were kind of texting, and I'm not sure if we called much. I'm sure, we talked. I'm sure we called like sometimes. We were still texting a lot, and we didn't know what was going to happen with us. Like, we didn't really plan. Are we going to try to do long distance and then continue our thing when we got back, or when I got back, or what? We didn't really know. So I was all stressed in general, and I was all stressed about that. And I started getting cold sores. Like, even before I left, I was getting all stressed, and I'd get cold sores from stress. Those little sores you get on your lip. And that was really shit, because when I would get one of those, I couldn't kiss Stella, and like, that was one of our big things that, like, made us feel all connected or whatever. Um, so that really sucked. But yeah, I was getting all stressed. I wasn't sleeping properly, and like, all the bad things that ended up happening to me, they were kind of mental things, but it actually kind of, some of it started with like physical stuff, and like, I just started always feeling tired, and I couldn't digest anything. I would eat something, just whatever it was, nothing in particular, nothing weird, but I would just feel all bloated, and like my whole stomach was like filling up with air, and I just like felt terrible. And I remember I can't remember where we were, whether it was like Prague or Venice or something, or some, place that's supposed to be fun and cool. And we were visiting some kind of garden or palace or something. And Warren was all like, "Oh, come on, let's go look around and stuff." And I remember literally just like laying on a park bench and being like, "Yeah, I can't, I don't feel good, I feel tired." And I just like laid down there and went to sleep. And Warren like went around, um, you know, looking at this place, like doing sightseeing stuff and taking photos. And I was at that point even being like a damper on his trip, because he made this comment about like, he was going around taking photos fake smiling because he was trying to enjoy himself, but he wasn't really. And I definitely wasn't enjoying myself. I was just feeling bad all the time, feeling tired, feeling bloated. And it got to the point where this is hard to describe, but do you know how you can poke out your stomach, like you can relax your abs and just let your stomach like poke out as if you have a pot belly, even though you're not fat. But then you can kind of contract your abs back to normal. Like you have that band of abdominal muscles that when you're just standing normally, it's always kind of contracted. So your stomach is just flat. I felt so bloated and like my stomach was like so fucked up that I felt like I had to like let my stomach hang out like that. And just like having my stomach normal, like standing in a normal posture with my abs like taut, which is just like the normal way to stand, it felt uncomfortable. Like it was like my whole stomach was filled with air, which was like pushing out my stomach. And I don't think it was from weird foods or anything. I think it was just like a kind of weird psychosomatic thing of me getting all stressed and anxious and feeling all out of sorts. Really just think it was that. So yeah, in the beginning, it wasn't even, yeah, I was starting to get stressed and anxious and stuff, but it was like even just like physical maladies. I was just starting to feel bad, always feeling tired, always feeling bloated, all this stuff. And I remember when we were staying in Twickenham for a while, can't remember exactly at what point it was, but I started getting really upset about like my body, like having all these body image issues because before that I would work out all the time. I was really muscly. I was like not totally shredded, but I had like really good abs and definition and all that. And I didn't have like I wasn't going to the gym all the time anymore, and yeah, I wasn't running all the time anymore, and I was eating all different kinds of stuff, like not having a normal diet that I was used to. And I remember I kind of gained a bit of fat, and it shouldn't have been a big deal at all. It's like I wasn't fat. I didn't get fucking fat. I just like kind of lost some muscle definition from gaining a little bit of fat over it. So I didn't like look as good as normal with like six pack abs and all that. And I remember looking in the mirror and being like, "Oh my god, it's gone. My body, it's gone," and being so like horrified. And it was a really like out of proportion reaction. Like I was so cut up about it. It was like a fucking emergency for me. I was like, "Oh no, what's happening?" And yeah, I started getting these really bad like body image issues that kind of added to everything else. Um and I'll be honest, I did start to find Warren to be like a kind of depressing person to be around. And it's likely that he was feeling the same thing about me. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much detail to go into with everything, but eventually, Warren stayed in London, And I went to school. I went to do a semester of uni in a place called Loughborough, which is like an hour north of England, of London, sorry, in what's called the East Midlands. And I hadn't researched this place at all. Like I said, I was just a fucking dumbass who thought that England is bigger and better than Australia, so any university you go to, you do like theatre and stuff there, and it's just going to be amazingly awesome. I have no idea why the fuck I thought that, but that's what I thought. I was just a fucking idiot. So I went to Loughborough, and Loughborough is in the middle of nowhere. It's a bleak, depressing place, and the university focuses on engineering and sports. I think they have like really good rugby or something there. I don't even fucking know. But their theater department was tiny and it was shit. Like it wasn't, no one who really wanted to get into like theater would go there. It was like a totally crap. The uni I went to in Australia like wasn't that big and well resourced and stuff, but you know, there was the theater program or whatever. You could do quite a lot of stuff there. But this one was totally shit. It was so fucking shit, and I was so upset. And I stayed like in the dorms, like in the halls there. And I really wanted to continue with all this theater training, this like voice work and mask work and stuff that I'd been doing before I left Australia, but there was no context to do it. And I really wanted to make one, but like my whole environment was against me. Like it was just me trying to do it, and it like really didn't work. And this is really embarrassing. But by this time I was really going wrong in the head, and it's difficult to pinpoint exactly why. I don't think there is an exact reason. I think it's partly all the different stresses, the stress about the girl, the stress of going overseas for the first time in general, the cold, not working out consistently and getting those endorphins and having my normal routine. Very, very poor social skills, so I didn't really make any new friends. I found it hard to meet new people even at school or in the dorms or anything. And I was like pretty alone. And all this stress about my parents and religion and if I was doing the right thing and if all this theater training stuff was really demonic and the occult, like my parents said, or not. I was all stressed about that. And I also just had this kind of baseline anxiety from how I always was, from my upbringing and stuff. I think I just had issues. I think I just had mental issues. Who the fuck knows why this stuff happens? But I was gradually starting to lose it, like lose grip on my mind. And I thought that doing this voice work and stuff, this Fitzmaurice voice work and all this was so important. And I thought it's really important, like for your development or something. I don't even know what the fuck I thought, but it basically involves, the way I learned it, it basically involves like lying on the floor and you like kind of like let all your emotions out type thing. So I did this in the dorms, like in the halls. So there's all these rooms around me. Like there's like just a whole hall full of little rooms where students stay. And I was in my room, basically on the floor screaming, like screaming and crying and stuff. And then I don't know how many times I did it before I realized it was a fucking insane thing to do. Because this is something we used to do in my theater like crew, where there was this trainer who was like facilitating it, and we'd have proper sessions in well, like in the theater where everyone knew what was happening and all that. But I was just a random person who came to this university and was doing this shit alone in his room. It was fucking psychotic. Like I recognize now so obviously that is so obviously fucking insane. But for some reason at the time I didn't realize that. You can't scream and cry for an hour in your room in the halls of the dorms of a university and then expect to go out to the canteen, the lunchroom, and like around and everyone just to be like, "Hi, how are you?" and make friends with you and think you're normal. Like, it's just not a thing. And sometime later, I actually found out that everyone thought that it must have been like the first night that I came there or something, and I did this. Everyone actually thought I was committing suicide. I learned this later on. And something I didn't realize for a long, long time, like it only like registered to me, I think years later, was, yo, everyone thought I was committing suicide, but no one helped me. Like no one stopped me. Like that's another thing that's really fucked up that I never even realized. It's like they thought I was in my room alone screaming and crying and committing suicide, but no one even knocked on my door. Like no one even intervened at all. They were just gonna let me commit suicide and what? Call the police the next day and have the body removed? Like what? Like, you see how fucked up that is? It's kind of beside the point because I didn't even realize it at the time, but yeah, I just realized now how fucked up that is. That's really fucking fucked. None of these people were gonna help someone who they thought was committing suicide. But anyway, I wasn't committing suicide. I was just doing this fucking yelling, screaming, crying stuff of Fitzmaurice's voice work, or the version of it that I'd learned. Yeah, and I was always doing all these weird things in my room. And I'm sure all these sounds were coming from my room and freaking everyone the fuck out in the halls. And that definitely didn't make it any easier to make any friends. But also around this time, like I realized just how pathetically bad my social skills were. Like I was an intelligent guy. Once you got one-on-one with me, like in a conversation, I was, very articulate and whatnot. But actually going up to people and saying hi and like introducing myself and being confident and making friends, having to be proactive and find ways to do that, or just have the balls to do that, like it was just so tough for me. Like I just couldn't seem to do it. And I remember there was this like one other girl, this like little Asian girl who also didn't have any friends, and she would sit alone in the cafeteria, and I'd go up to her, and she was the only person I really had the balls to talk to. And she also didn't really seem very enthusiastic about talking to me. It was kind of like I was imposing on her. So not even she liked me, but that was the only person I had the courage to talk to. It's so pussy. When you look back on it, it's just so fucking pussy. But yeah, so I wasn't having any fun. I wasn't making any friends. And I was starting to deteriorate mentally. So yeah, like I said, I used to work out. I used to go and lift weights and run like all the time. And I couldn't always do that here, like when I first, when we were traveling around, and then when we're staying in Twickenham and stuff, it was a bit harder. And I think that did actually really affect me, not having those endorphins and stuff that I was used to, and seeing my body like not look as good, which was a big part of my identity, unfortunately. But then all this weird stuff started to happen to me. Um, like it's really hard to describe, and it's actually very hard to remember exactly what it was like because it was many years ago now. but I started losing control of my mind, and it's very hard to explain, but it's like I just started to have this like cloud of anxious, intrusive thoughts like in my head at all times. And for the most part, I can't really remember what the thoughts were, but it was just a lot of mental busyness. And the general tone of it was always just like anxiety, worry, dread, stress. Like it was just this terrible feeling. And one part of it I do remember was I kept hearing my parents' voices, like my mom's voice and my dad's voice, telling me about all this like theater stuff and this like voice work and mask work and stuff, all this stuff that I was doing and getting interested in. I started kind of getting interested a little bit in like Eastern philosophies and meditation and stuff, like a little bit. They were telling me all that stuff was bad and that I was bad and everything I was doing was wrong. And I just started feeling so anxious about it. Those are the only types of specific thoughts I can remember. But I think, as well as that, there was just all these swirling thoughts, all these just anxious thoughts. It was like a big, vicious, angry cloud around me. And it felt like I was losing access to my mind and losing access to my body. It was like I was lost in this cloud, this sea of anxious, intrusive thoughts. And it's like all my attention, all my mental resources were just wrapped up in that. It was like a big angry storm cloud, and I was just like lost in it. And I could like see it was that as if from very far away, like in the distance almost, I could see my body moving around and doing things and talking and saying things and making decisions, but I didn't have access to it. It was something that was happening very far away that I couldn't access and I couldn't influence. And it was like it wasn't me. It was like I was watching it, but I wasn't watching in like a peaceful, meditative way. I was watching from inside a cloud of angry, anxious, crazy thoughts that was just filling me with like stress and anxiety and dread. Like everything was an emergency. Like the whole of life was an emergency, even when nothing was going wrong. It could be a nice day, I could be walking down the street, whatever it was, but I was feeling as if someone was about to kill me or something. Like that's the mood I was in. Like it was just everything was an emergency. It was this like crazy, crazy level of anxiety that just never went away. And it's like it denied me access to my body, and my body just became this thing that like did its own thing almost. Like I would literally say things and do things and have no fucking idea what I was doing or saying. And there was like another me kind of like looking at that, witnessing it and being like, oh no, what's he doing now? This is terrible. But I had that part of me had no ability to influence anything, if that makes sense. It was like I was cut off from my own body and brain, even. It was so fucking weird. And it was so scary and it was so painful and miserable and horrible. So it did happen over time that I became like that. And it probably went up and down. Like sometimes I was a bit better, sometimes I was way worse. But that's kind of what my life became like at some point in that year. Like it crept up on me until that's what I was like. And the rest of the year, for the most part, I was kind of like that. I was in this anxious, out of control state. And it's very difficult to explain exactly what it was like. And it's very difficult to impress upon someone how bad it was, like how badly I had lost control of myself, and how like none of my decisions made sense, and none of my decisions, even up to the words I was saying, like the words that were coming out of my mouth, none of them really felt like they were under my control. So yeah, it was pretty bad, but it just started with, starting to feel stressed, starting to feel anxious, and things going wrong with my body, feeling all bloated and lethargic and things like that. Then it just gradually got worse and worse and worse. And just before I went overseas, I started getting really interested in something called Buto. And Buto is basically it's like a modern form of Japanese dance theater, but it's like very very strange. Like like metal, like death metal music and black metal music. To me, it's like the black metal version of dance theater. It's like basically these Japanese guys like they put on weird costumes or like paint themselves in weird paint and stuff, and they go on stage and they just act weird basically. They like just move around all weirdly and stuff. And I saw some footage of this. I watched some videos about this, and I think the way I got onto it was that theater trainer guy who we worked with, he had done some of it, and I must have read it online about him or something, and wondered what it was and looked it up. But I saw that, and you might remember some time ago, I told you about how I loved being weird. Like I would just like act like different creatures, like make different weird animal noises and stuff, just like act crazy. Because that's how I expressed myself, and I found life really absurd, and that's kind of how I dealt with it or expressed it. I saw footage of this Buto stuff, and I was like, damn, like they're just being weird on stage. Like, I didn't realize you could do that. Like, that's what I want to do. And yeah, I started getting really interested in that. And I decided when I went overseas, like, I wanted to do as many like theater workshops and stuff as I could, but I really wanted to do some Buto workshops. So I ended up doing it. And the first one I went to was quite early after I went overseas. I was already at Loughborough, and I wasn't supposed to, but I kept just randomly just going to other countries and going to like theater and Buto workshops, even though I was supposed to be at school, because they were getting all mad at me for doing that. But I'm like, this is what I'm over here to do. Like, I want to have as many of these experiences as possible, do as much of this training as possible. And this school is like just lame. So I'm not going to not do it just because the people at the school are mad about it. Um, and I think I really didn't understand. It's like, you're supposed to be over here, like doing school, you idiot. You can't just go wherever you want, like go traveling around. Like, I was so stupid. I didn't understand anything. But the first one I did, um, it was a workshop with a guy called Atsushi Takanashi. I think that's how you say his name. That's his real name. He's a public figure, so no need to change the names. Um, but I did that in Paris, and that was before I had totally mentally deteriorated. So it actually was kind of cool. And basically, like it was basically lots and lots of weird kind of dance improvisation where he had all these elements. He called them elements, different animals and like things in nature, different kinds of people and stuff that he'd experienced. It was all stuff from his own life. Um, and he would explain the different ways you were supposed to move as these different elements, and then you would kind of combine them into a weird, like kind of semi choreographed dance. Um, so yeah, we were doing that, and I actually met uh someone there. She was the only really good dancer in the workshop. So another thing I didn't understand about these workshops were this isn't really how, like, full-on professional theater or, like, acting people learn or whatever. Like, these are just these, like, dancers and Buto people and, like, theater trainers, they just put these on kind of for the public for extra money and stuff, and people kinda just mainly do them for fun. Like, so yeah, sure, maybe some kind of students and semi-professional people do them, but for the most part, like, this isn't really how full-on professionals, like, learn. And I really didn't, like, understand even that either. But anyway, uh, I met this girl there, and actually, I must have been 20, and she was actually 36. But this was in Paris, and she was French, and she was a ballerina, or she used to be a ballerina. Now she was still a dancer. Um, I don't really understand like how she made money those days, but I think it was still from dancing. Like she was a professional dancer of some type. And yeah, we kind of started hanging out, and I don't know how it started, but we started writing like letters to each other, like love letters. And English was her second language, so her letters didn't entirely make sense, but they were very nice and very dramatic. Um, and yeah, we ended up kind of having like, I guess, kind of like a little fling in Paris where, um, I wasn't there for that long, but it ended up that we kind of went on some kind of like little dates together. Um, and we, went to a little Japanese cafe and had like miso soup. We went and had like some little ice creams or something. And I was so stupid. I didn't even do all the touristy stuff even when I was in Paris. I think I ended up going to Paris like 2 or 3 times, and I never even saw the Arc de Triomphe or uh, the Louvre or the, Eiffel Tower or any of that. I was so fucking dumb. But anyway, I won't go on and on about this, girl, but she was really beautiful. Like, she was 36, but she only looked like 25. She was like this French, ballet dancer girl, and, yeah, we danced together. My dancing wasn't really dancing, it was like this weird Buto stuff, like, as much of that as I had learned. Um, but yeah, she really liked me, and she ended up, taking me to her apartment and sucking my dick. So, that was pretty cool, but it was, like, really actually properly romantic. Um, we didn't end up having sex. She just sucked my dick. We were, like, kissing and stuff, and then she sucked my dick, and then we went to sleep, and then the next day I had to go back to England, and we kept, like, emailing and stuff, and she kinda almost organized to come to England or something, but, she didn't end up doing it, and it's really good that she didn't end up doing it because at the time where we were starting to try to organize it, I had totally deteriorated. Like, when I was in Paris that first time, I hadn't been in, or I hadn't been overseas that long. I hadn't fully, like, deteriorated yet, but over time, as we were emailing and texting back and forth and stuff, and she was like, "Oh, maybe I should fly to England and stuff." I was deteriorating and getting worse and worse. And the only place she would have been able to stay with me is in, like, a little dorm at my school. Like, it would have been so terrible. And she would have seen how, like, awful I had gotten, how I'd lost control of myself. So it's really, really good and really lucky that she never ended up seeing me again, because that would have been awful for everyone. But now it just gets to stand as, something actually kind of good that happened for a very short time. And that was actually the first time I ever got my dick sucked, and it was really good. She was really good at it. Um, yeah. I did wanna have sex with her as well, but I guess she didn't want to, maybe because, we weren't gonna be together very long or something. Or maybe we just didn't end up doing it, but yeah. that was really great, and that was my first blowjob, so that was pretty cool. So at least one kind of good thing happened over there, but overall it was yeah, totally awful and really, really traumatic. So I went to a lot of these different Buto workshops and stuff, and I think maybe they were very interesting, but I think maybe it wasn't helpful for me because I remember even in the first one, like when I was in Paris, I felt like it kind of dissociated me from myself maybe a little bit. And it made me feel like extremely open emotionally. So then when I would see like a homeless person or something, I would feel so sad. And I remember I think I didn't want to just give money to the homeless person, but um I went and bought like a loaf of bread and like a jar of jam, and I took like a butter knife from my hostel, and I like went and gave it to this homeless woman, and she was like, "Oh, thank you." Like this French homeless woman or whatever. But it was really weird. It was like my emotions were so open from doing all this like expressive dance stuff and all this imagination stuff and theater training. It was like I was really emotional. So like everything I saw would make me like really sad or like really affect me. Like I was really open emotionally. And maybe this Buto stuff, like all this like using your body in weird ways and like imagining all this weird stuff in your mind, maybe it did kind of dissociate me from myself a little bit. I'm not sure. But I think you can be a totally normal person with no prior issues and do some of that stuff and you'll be fine. It might have just been maybe some kind of accelerant or catalyst for me, possibly. So yeah, I was doing some of that stuff and I was only supposed to be away for 6 months or maybe slightly even shorter, like 5 months. So I was supposed to travel around a bit, do a semester at this other uni in England, and then go the fuck home. That was it. Or maybe travel around a bit more and then go the fuck home. That was supposed to be it. But I was having all these crazy problems with anxiety and stuff. And something really weird happened to me where I became obsessed with trying to extend my trip and not go home. And I think what had happened, this is going to sound probably really weird, but I think what had happened was I told you how I grew up in this really toxic household. And it's like once you're there, it fucks with your mind so you can't even really think straight. And I think probably even like subconsciously, part of the reason I decided to go on the trip was to get out of that toxic environment. And I think what was happening on a weird subconscious level, even though it didn't really make sense, was when I was faced with the idea of going back, I desperately wanted to avoid having to do that. And that didn't really make sense anymore because I was like 20 years old. Um, and I turned 21 when I was over there. And like my angry dad, he couldn't really do anything to me anymore. Like it didn't make sense. Like I was so scared of him as a kid, but now I was basically an adult. Like there was no reason to freak out over that anymore. But when you kind of get traumatized like that, your mind doesn't think logically about these things. It just thinks kind of instinctively, instinctually. And I think what was happening maybe was that I was just trying anything I could in my kind of frazzled, anxious state to avoid having to go back to that like toxic environment of our home again. Even though by this time, I think it was decidedly less toxic after most of us had kind of like grown up a bit more. So it didn't really make sense, but I have a feeling that that's what was happening on a kind of weird subconscious level, even though I didn't realize it at the time. So, I ended up finding a way to extend my stay. I was going to go to a different university in England to do another semester. And this was, I tried signing up to um, a few different universities, and I emailed these people. I think it was like Middlesex or something, and they were like, "Yeah, sure, you can come here." But then the exchange person from my university got really angry and emailed them and was like, "We don't even have an exchange program with you. Lincoln knows this and he's just making up his own shit." Like, she was getting all angry. But, like, I was just trying anything to not have to go home. Like, I was just I was totally crazy. Like, I was a crazy person by this time. But I ended up organizing one with, I think it was called Hertfordshire or something. And it was in this shitty, shitty town called Hatfield. And it was just like the most horrible part of England, or it was just fucking awful. Um, Yeah, it was just like this crappy town. It was near like Hertfordshire. It was near some really nice places, but the university itself and the little town it was in was so shit. There was nothing there, and yeah, it was just really crappy. So, yeah, I continued to deteriorate mentally, and I was really out of control of myself, and I started getting all these weird ideas. And I actually, as well as all this like anxiety and paranoia and loss of control and stuff that was going on with me, I developed an eating disorder too. All those like general body image issues that I described earlier, it became a full-blown eating disorder, and I basically had anorexia. It didn't go so far that I, got hospitalized and was like a skeleton or anything, but I lost a lot of weight. I think I lost about 16 kilos or something. I became like rake thin, and I would just be starving myself all the time. I would like starve myself, like not eat for days, and then just eat some little like vegetable soup or something. And I was trying to get like really, really skinny, and I wanted to look like one of these Japanese Buto dancers because some of them were really, really crazy thin, but I think that was natural for them. Like, they were kind of old Japanese men and stuff. And then there were other ones who were more like professional dancers who were, yeah, they were really, really low body fat and really, really lithe and skinny. But that's something that happens over time, like with proper diet and exercise and everything as a professional dancer. It's not something you quickly starve yourself into. And people commented, like people who I saw at Buto and theater workshops when I first went overseas, I saw some of the same people a long time later. And they were like, we hardly even recognized you because, like, you'd shaved your head and you'd gotten like so rake thinny, like so rake skinny, sorry. Um, you used to be like really muscly and stuff, and now you're like all like thin and like crazy, like gaunt and drawn. Like, what happened to you? Um, so yeah, it was really crazy. And later on, I would starve myself, and then I would binge. Like, I would just starve myself, and then I couldn't stand it anymore. And then I'd just buy everything, like buy chocolates, buy ice creams, buy jars of Nutella, and just like binge on it. And then I would feel all guilty and ashamed and terrible. And then I would starve myself again, and like the cycle would go again. It was so terrible. And as well as just not eating and starving myself and stuff, I got all these weird ideas in my head about food. And I was like obsessively reading online about different diets and trying to find like the right one. But I was reading some really fucking whacked out stuff. Um, and at first I tried macrobiotics. I got all obsessed with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that can be quite good. but I was really obsessive about it, and, I think I was just looking for some kind of control, because I think at the back of my mind, I was kind of realizing a lot of the stuff that I've been taught as a kid, all this religion stuff was bullshit, and I was realizing, like, how I really didn't have skills, like social skills and life skills and stuff. And I didn't have control of my body. Like, I wanted my body to look and act a certain way, but it wouldn't. And I just like, yeah, I wanted to be all thin and low body fat, but I starved myself, but I couldn't get myself to look the way I wanted to with this kind of body dysmorphia stuff. And yeah, I think I think I was really like looking for at least something I could control, which I think is I think a lot of eating disorders are kind of like that. So I was reading all this fucked up stuff online, and first I tried like macrobiotics, and then I got onto raw food, and all I was eating was like raw tomatoes, like little cans of tuna, and like raw lettuces and cucumbers and carrots, and like that's all I would eat. Occasionally I'd eat like an apple maybe, like I don't even know where I got these ideas from, but yeah, it was just fucking crazy. And then I was reading all this weird stuff online, and you gotta understand, like, by this time, I was fucking crazy. Like, I was a certified, like, insane person. Like, people would, like, cross the street when they saw me because I just looked all fucking weird and whacked out. Like, I just, like, looked all nervous and twitchy and weird. I would wear weird clothes, you know? Some of my, like, taking care of myself was, like, breaking down, like, washing my clothes and stuff like that. Just generally taking care of myself. Um, and yeah, and, I started eating raw meat. So, oh, this is just so awful to even talk about, but I would just buy, like, raw meat, just, like, raw mince, raw pieces of meat from the supermarket and just eat them, like, just eat them raw, like, big fucking pieces of meat. So disgusting, like, I just can't believe I did it, and I would do it, like I remember doing it, like, sitting on the curb of the car park, like, outside the fucking grocery store with, like, people walking past and stuff, like, I just became like an animal. It's like it's uncomfortable to even talk about, and my mental state was just, like, gone. I had become a full-on crazy person at this point, and then I even ate, like, raw fish. I would just buy, like, raw stuff from the fucking supermarket, like a raw piece of fish, and just, like, fucking eat it like Gollum, like a fucking like Smeagol Gollum from fucking Lord of the Rings, like, it was just awful, and I remember this, like, I bought, like, a whole fish that was raw, like, just from the normal shops, and I was, like, down by the lake, like, at the park, down by the lake, just, like, eating it, eating this raw fish, like, my mind had fucking gone, like, my sanity had fucking gone. Um, yeah, and I would even do this, like, in front of people, like, I remember, like, later on when I wasn't at school, uh, at workshops, like, I would do stuff like that in front of people, and they would just be like, "What the fuck is going on?" Um Yeah, and I'll tell you some more of these stories later, but I remember I was on this at this one workshop where, like, everyone stayed together, like, it was over lots and lots of days, and everyone was staying in this accommodation, and, we went to some event, and, um, I had been starving myself, and there were all these sweet biscuits at this event, and they weren't even good, they were, like, just kinda baked biscuits, they were the only sweet thing there. And I was like I had been starving myself, and I just ate, like, all of them. I don't know how many of these fucking biscuits I ate, but I ate so fucking many. And then, like, that evening, that night, I was just throwing up. Like, I just ate so many of them, and I just fucking threw them all up. Not bulimia style, not making myself throw up, but I just ate so fucking many. I just gorged on these sweet biscuits, which weren't even any fucking they weren't even nice. They were just sugary. And I hadn't eaten for days, and then I, like, gorged myself on these, and I was just, like, yakking them all up into the toilet, and, like, the other people that were staying there for the workshop, like, could hear me doing it, and they're all, like, worried about me and shit. So fucking sad. I would just yeah. My mind just deteriorated. I became, like, just totally crazy. And don't forget this whole time, I'm, like, not really feeling like my decisions are actual decisions. Like, I'm just stuck in this anxious cloud of, like, intrusive thoughts and stuff. And it's like my body is just going around doing all this crazy stuff, but I don't feel like I'm in control of it. Like, even the things I say, I don't feel like I'm in control of them. I feel like I'm watching, like, horrified as my body goes around and does all this crazy, harmful stuff, and I don't have any control over it. And I'm just wrapped up in these, like, anxious, intrusive thoughts, like, all the time, and I just have this feeling of, like, panic and dread, like, at all times, even though fucking nothing is going on. It was fucking nuts. It's just fucking nuts. There's no other way to put it. So, yeah, that's some of the kind of stuff I started going through when I was overseas, and, yeah. There's lots more stories like that that I could use to illustrate exactly what went on, but it's really scary when you literally lose your mind. Like, I had literally lost my mind, and I didn't know why. I didn't think I'd done anything that bad, like, that deserved it. I hadn't taken any drugs or anything. I wasn't part of any kind of sick shit. It was just mental illness. Like, how does serious mental illness happen to someone? How does it creep up on someone? I don't know exactly, you know? I explained some of the factors that might have led to it. Maybe a lot of it was just like childhood trauma that finally had a chance to come out when I was finally like my first time being overseas and being like really far away from our house for a long time. Um, and I'll hopefully tell you some other stories later that support that theory. But yeah, it was fucking crazy, man. Like I still don't even know what to make of it, but it basically ruined my life. Like it ruined my whole life. Um, that was like the big explosion, like the big cataclysm. And after that, I didn't just come to my senses. I struggled with mental illness for like years and years after that. And it killed any hope of a career, like any burgeoning career. Anything like, you know, when everyone was like studying and building up their careers and having relationships and saving for a house and like getting married, I was just dealing with mental illness shit, struggling with mental illness shit. So it fucking ruined my life. So yeah, there's a lot more stuff I could say. Um, I'll tell you more stories about stuff that happened overseas in the next episode and in later episodes. And some of it I might remember later, and it'll come out in dribs and drabs. It's the kind of thing. It's very hard to tell you everything that happened, you know. And yeah, this was years and years ago. And yeah, and I'll tell you what happened like after being overseas, like when I got back and all that. I'll tell you another time. So I don't know. This was a pretty crazy episode. It's kind of hard to talk about this stuff. It's not comfortable, but I feel like I kind of need to do it. So yeah, that was that episode. I don't know if you would have enjoyed it. Maybe, hopefully, you found it interesting or something. But yeah, so I'll talk to you again next time.